Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Do I have a motion to go into open?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Cancino, second. Mr. Barnes. All in favor?
Aye.
We are open, and we were in close for approximately 30 minutes for the items of number 1, real property, and 2, personnel. And no action was taken. Now we'll move on to the next page. And we'll start our first public participation portion of the evening tonight for agenda items only. If you have an agenda item you'd like to speak on, please come forward, state your name, address, and what agenda item you'd like to speak on.
Jacob McGarrett, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Parkway, and gentlemen of the audience, viewing audience, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
Item 6, proctors and site managers. $45 for a proctor and site manager is $55. Now, but do they work the same night? How does that work? Please explain.
Jacob, these are for high school event. They can work the same night, just as the title.
Did they collect tickets?
So they can collect tickets, yes. And the site manager oversees the practice and oversees the event. So they have more responsibility as a supervisory responsibility.
That's collecting tickets, like
That could be one of the tickets. Yeah, there are a number of practices. Some can be collecting tickets, that could be for the audience or the spectators to make sure there's...
Oh, anybody can do this?
No, it has to be someone who's employed by the Roselle Park Board of Education.
Then why were we allowed to report? They didn't go there for
If you volunteer.
And we collected, there were 2 times, 3 times, and all of a sudden we were fired. We didn't get paid. Meaning we got paid.
They were volunteers, Jacob.
But we thank you for your volunteers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing there's no one else, we'll close the first public participation portion of the evening tonight for agenda items only. And now we're going to move on to committee reports. Does anyone have a report they'd like to speak on? Seeing there's none, we'll go to the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mr. Greer.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting this evening. Just a couple of reminders. On November 7th through the 9th, we have our parent-teacher conferences. These are important afternoons and nights for the parents because you get to discuss one-to-one with the teacher the progress your child is making, and it's something that is critical, especially if there are any issues with your child's learning or anything such as that in the classroom. Please work with the teachers right from the beginning. It's early in the year, and there's a time to really make any changes if needed. So it is November 7th, 8th, and 9th. All of you should have received an appointment for the elementary and the middle school. The high school parent-teacher conferences is being held November 17th in the evening only. Park School reports will be presented by Mrs. Salvo on November 15th here at Sherman School. We will also be presenting other internal data so the public can compare and see our different data that we collect throughout the year, not only one single data, which will be the park scores. Our first superintendent's chat is scheduled for here, Sherman School, on November 16th between the hours of 6 and 7:30, 8 o'clock. It is an informal night. It is an opportunity for the parents in a roundtable type of format to discuss anything that you would like to discuss with the superintendent in terms of the schools. Last year we started it. It was a very productive night. Some very good ideas were brought up from our community and from our parents. So I encourage you to please participate. So the first one is November 16th here at Sherman School down in the cafeteria. World Language Honor Society at the high school is being held this Monday coming up, November 7th at 7 p.m. It is always a very pleasant night where our students are being rewarded and recognized for their world language. So please, if you have a child or if you don't, you're invited. Please come to the cafeteria. It's really rewarding to see our children being recognized. And that's all I have, Mr. Miller, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brito. And now we're on to personnel, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 1 through 8, 1 being district substitute, 2 being staff resignation, 3 being staff appointment, 4 being curriculum work for 2016-2017, 5 being professional development, 6 being additional high school athletic site managers/proctors for the year 2016-2017, and 7 being a change of assignment transfer, 8 being middle school extracurricular advisors for the year 2016-2017. Do I have a motion? Mr. Harms, second? Second, Mr. Bowman. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, I have a question. I think Mr. President, that's how I'm going to get it. Number 8, so recognizing it's prorated, right? I wanted to confirm that our dates are good there. They're only prorated for a month and a half, the first employee, and the second one is prorated for the remainder of the school year?
Yes, the date coincides with the person's maternity leave of absence,
Okay.
so that October 23rd was her last day of work. And therefore, the new person taking on that responsibility
With
the
the,
following day
and,
for the remainder of the year, because that person will remain on maternity leave through June 30th.
remind me, that's a left or right grid, so B is actually a higher.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's why the prorate for 1.5 months is higher than
Yes.
the person that's going to be receiving it for 7.
Well, the figure that you see here, Mr. Gurton, for clarification purposes, is the rate for the entire year. If that person served in that capacity for the entire school year, that's the dollar amount that they would receive.
That's not what we're paying them on a prorated basis.
Correct. I will compute that according to the number of days.
So I'm glad I asked that. Now I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, along the same lines, Mrs. Garcia, that date should be 6/30/17?
It's already been corrected.
Okay.
It's already been corrected.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
I apologize. I was reading that wrong. No, about the prorate. I was trying to understand.
Okay.
So that's good.
Any other questions or comments? We'd like to thank Ms. Otero for her service at the middle school and George teacher and wish her well, as we will also welcome Mr. Hires, the District Chief Technology Officer, tonight. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Vice President Harms,
Yes.
Mr. Balaban, Mr. Bowman,
Yes.
Mr. Cancino,
Yes.
Mr. Gurton,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Sekou,
Yes.
Mr. Vita,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now we're on to education. I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 9 through 10, 9 being education program and 10 being educational trip requests. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burton, second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cancino. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question, Mr. President, about tuition incoming. It says terminated, but parent paid. Can I just get some clarification about that? Ms. Gershon?
Previously, we had approved tuition incoming paid by a parent. Since that time, the family has obtained residency in Roselle Park. They provided all the necessary documentation one would need to provide when we do registration. So since they are now a legal Roselle Park resident, they are no longer required to pay tuition.
Anyone else? I think that the educational trip of the seniors to the Senior Spirit Medical Center by our high school course is it's going to be a wonderful event, and I know there will be a lot of senior citizens who will enjoying anytime we can get out to the community and really show off the talents of our children and our staff, especially at the benefit of senior citizens who just enjoy the fellowship and the meetings is a wonderful thing, so I wish them well on the 19th. All in favor?
Mr. President, I just have a follow-up
Yes.
question on number 9.
Sure.
The tuition, that 15,000, is that what they're paid? I'm not sure what that money represents.
Okay. That tuition would have been the total tuition for the school year, but since it's terminated, they only paid the first 2 months.
You could, all right.
So the monthly tuition rate would be $1,517. So they paid that for September and paid it for October, and now it's terminated.
Okay, thank you. No, that's fine. I see 15, I didn't want them, because they would have to show something, reimburse me then for asking $100, okay?
Anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? Those items are passed. And now we're on to business. I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 11 through 16. 11 being approval of bills, 12 being use of buildings and grounds, 13 being emergency and crisis management plan, 14 the 5-year comprehensive maintenance plan in one form, 15 the CUSAC statement of assurance, and 16 the secretary treasurer report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Harms, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Burton, are there any questions or comments?
5-year plan, anything material change in it?
No, not really. You have a copy in your packet, and you look it through, you see, I mean, it's very similar to last year, nothing outstanding. Of course, the figures in the M1 form, you will see, the updated figures for last year and the figures proposed for the current year. So those figures would be new in comparison to last year's form.
How would the public get access to this? Is this on the website, or do they have to come to the board and get it? Both these plans?
They could Oprah it if they did not want to come to the board office. I would be glad to email it to them if they so request it in that form.
Anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? Those items are passed. Excuse me. And now we're to continuing business. Mr. Ritter, any continuing business?
I do not have any continuing business.
How about new business? Does anyone have new business? Well, I hope everyone enjoyed their Halloween yesterday. And I know, personally, I know there were a lot of different harvest festivals going on at the schools and fun things. And one thing in particular here at Sherman was the scary read aloud nights that was here, where the children, Mr. Vito, was that 3 through 5 kids, or it was the grade 3rd through 5th graders came in and were scared by I think some characters here on the board, and also some parents who volunteered. But also there were teachers that gave up their time as well, and we really appreciated that because it's been going on for how many years, Mr. Vito? Yeah, great, and it was a fun event, and it was just very nice to bring the community in, and we thanked our staff and our parents and everyone else for making that a successful evening. With that, we'll go to the second public participation portion of the evening tonight. If you have anything you'd like to speak on, please come forward, state your name, address, and what you'd like to talk about. You'll have 3 minutes to make your statement.
Salt Cares in 150 Berwyn Street. My apologies for not being here before and asking the question. But thank you to the board members for asking the question about the tuition. But in reviewing that agreement, it does state, although I don't agree with it, that they would be due for the full amount. So I don't know if something needs to be passed by the board as a resolution. I can read the section of the contract that states that. I don't know if the board needs to pass a resolution to say that they were absolved of that, because there's a written contract that says that they're responsible for the remainder. And although I agree with that they should only pay, not even pay, but that what's been put in has been put in, there's a written thing, so perhaps the board could review that and just on the record make a resolution to say that in this case, that is, and for your review to the attorney.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
should we
ma'am.
also look at some terms, some again.
Yes.
You know, that where if they become permanent residents of the borough.
Or if the board decides publicly to waive it, or for whatever reason.
Well, we're not
If-
waiving.
If I could just make a quick comment. So I do have a copy of the tuition contract. I'm not sure if you're referring to paragraph 7. And it says, upon termination, the parent shall remain responsible for the tuition costs set forth in paragraph 3 through the date of attendance.
That's not the agreement I have. I have not one word section. Oh, 7, you said 7?
Yes.
Upon termination, the shall be responsible for the tuition costs set forth, paragraph 3 through the date of attendance.
Right, so if a student then attends through, as Ms. Gershio has sort of globally said, say the month of September, and let's just say through October 31st, then it would be prorated for those 2 months of attendance.
But they're still in attendance, though. They've just switched from the classification of tuition. Or from out of district to in district, correct?
But a tuition contract would be with respect to the terms of that contract, meaning so you're an out-of-district student,
Okay.
a non-resident, attending under those terms. Once they're no longer an out-of-district student, or something else changes, or if, say, they were to cancel the contract simply because they decided to go someplace else than Roselle Park, then that would be their last date of attendance here, would then be the last date for purposes of the contract.
Gotcha, so that does mean that that covers that section.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And then, with regard to, my apologies. Number 3, the appointment. That salary, is that the same salary that it was for the previous person in that position, or is it an increase or decrease? I'm sorry if it was asked before, I was not here.
So that is about $1,500 over what was.
So it's an increase of
It's
50,
about 15.
but it's prorated, so it's whatever.
That's right.
Thank you, and thank you very much for explaining that. Appreciate that.
Good evening, Joseph Carollo Jr., 625 Woodland Ave. Here to talk about the bonfire, real short and sweet. Myself and Mrs. Jaskula and her husband, Deputy Chief Jaskula, met with Mr. Foy last week. She's going to apply for the permit, the use of the property. We're going to start at 7 a.m. Have about an hour of some stand-up and cheer and some.
Is that PM?
Oh, yeah, that's okay, thank you. PM, you're right, 7 PM. So that's all I remember, singing, stand up and cheer with the band. We're gonna probably light the fire around 8 o'clock. And I'm not sure if they're gonna do this, we might have some fire pits to do some s'mores. S'mores kits with hot water, s'mores kits, I'm always thinking of food. So it should be a good evening, I hope a good evening, let's hope the weather stands like last Wednesday, if you remember, it was rainy. I'm not sure if we have the same weather like that, we're gonna have it. Other than that, if it's good weather like today, last night, it'll be all systems go. We're gonna work with Mr. Foy and the Cliffy and getting the prep, the bonfire. And I don't know if you guys are going to notify the kids going to school, but if everything goes well on Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve, we'll have a bonfire. All right?
We will notify them.
Thank you.
What's the date of that?
Thanksgiving Eve.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, the 23rd.
23rd, 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero.
It's all right.
Jake Harris, exposure to how many students do we have that are out of district from K to 12th grade? Paying tuition.
Say that question again.
Okay.
How many
Can
items?
you repeat the question?
How many out of district students do we have from from the kindergarten to 12th grade? How many? You know,
How many students do we get?
That we send out, out-of-district students that we send out.
Yeah, they're-
How many students do we have that actually pay to attend Roselle Park School District?
Tuition pay.
Tuition pay. That's what he said, that's what he said. That's what he
Yeah, he
said.
said-
How many students do we have that actually pay to come here? Simple.
I think they're trying.
You know what, Jake, we don't have the number right now.
Is it the academy per family student?
I have my new reading.
Jake, we have one student that's attending the academy that's out of district. One student.
No, there's no districts.
Okay, they send it to us and they attend the academy.
Okay, just to add to that, we've had that in the past at the academy. We've had some from Hillside, we've had it from Roselle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think, Jake, what you're asking is that in the 5 schools that we have, the Sherman Middle School, Robert Gordon, Aldine, and the high school, how many students do we have that pay to attend our school? I mean, if we're saying we have 2, and the 2 of them are in the academy, then we should have none attending any of the other schools.
There might be one other in one of our schools, another school district.
That's in one of the programs.
Okay. I think Jake's asking it. I think what Mr. Major, can I help you here just a little bit? Again, you're asking how many students do we have that might be like the one we just.
Mr. Harms, we'll find out, we'll bring it to the next board meeting. We'll bring it to the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Jen Driscoll at 830 Chestnut Street. And 2 things really tonight. One is the first to ask, on behalf of my husband and I, we would like to have a closed meeting with the board to discuss some ongoing issues that we're not really happy with how they've been resolved so far, or how they're being addressed. So I'm going to ask you to take that into consideration, Mr. Garrido, Mr. Miller, if you would please make that happen.
Mr. Scola, we'll get back to you tomorrow morning. And then I'll
Perfect.
discuss it with Mr.
Yep, okay. And the other thing, I'm actually going to take it, not be mom here for a minute. It's kind of nice, not really. Just upcoming, I'm sure you guys are all aware that I also sit as the Union County PTA president for the county, obviously. And one of the things that we're going about and seeing a lot of coming both from national PTA and your state PTA is ESSA is being implemented. And as a resident of Roselle Park, I want to know where we are on the plan and have we started reaching out to our stakeholders to start to formulate our plan.
We would certainly look into that, Mr. Scola, and we would certainly.
Have timelines for you because the state has to put their plan in progress by February. The district should be starting.
I'm sorry, what penny?
Yeah,
ESSA is Every Student Succeeds Act. It is taking over. It was passed into law a year ago.
Mr. Scola, we are. We just received, as a matter of fact, I went to the New Jersey Board's convention last week, and I sat at the meeting that the Department of Education had sent the timeline that you have to all the administrators, so we were very much aware of it.
Okay.
I wasn't sure what you were referring to.
Have our board members received it yet?
I have not sent it to the board members, I sent it to the administrators.
Okay. Because just to let you know, we have copies of what the difference between No Child Left Behind and the Every Student Succeeds Act.
We have that as well.
Okay. As long as we're going to reach out to the stakeholders, because this is a big piece of this is family engagement. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Matthew Weingang, 245 McGee Avenue. Excited to hear about Mr. Salvo's report coming up, and I want to bring up a question that I brought up a couple of months ago. Is that report going to include some information about the change of instruction from switching to non-switching?
Yes, that will include the change in instruction. We'll have some information for you and some data possibly on that as well.
Okay, that's great to hear. The other comment slash question I wanted to make was about the Meridian building and a possible payment in lieu of taxes that could be negotiated. So the building's not, they haven't broken ground yet on it, but they did announce that they would be pursuing a pilot agreement. And I understand that usually pilots are negotiated between the business and the town. And a lot of times a pilot doesn't include any portion for schools. And I know that there aren't supposed to be a lot of kids in that building, but there are estimated to be some kids in the building, like 1% of the occupants. And the board is going to be responsible for educating those kids. And the board is going to be responsible for collecting the money to educate those kids. So I guess my question is the board going to be a partner in the negotiation? Are they going to have a seat at the table in that negotiation? Or if they don't and the board gets no money, are they going to be okay with turning around and saying to the homeowners, you guys are going to pay for that?
Mr. President, I can try to answer.
Sure.
that.
Go ahead, Mr. Arnold.
Next thing. I sit on the municipal land use board, and in lieu of taxes, the pilot program. I've already met with the mayor, also met with Mr. Blum, chief financial officer. They understand our plight with that. They understand where it goes. You have to remember that if it costs $15,000 for a student to be educated here, as we just seen tonight, okay, on it, if they move to town here, we don't get that $15,000 up front. They pay over the year in their taxes, and we get part of that taxes. So what I've asked, and I brought that to their attention, saying, okay, this is great for the town. The town in that gets X amount of dollars, the county gets very little, and the school gets nothing. You're absolutely right. So they're going to work out something, from what I was told, okay, and I will keep on pursuing it, that they're going to work out something. If there is a child coming here, they will give, again, I'm not saying that they will, so I'm trying to word it the right way, but to think about how they can help us in that issue, okay, of having students come here and not getting anything for it.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know what that might be. They gave us some suggestions of how they could do it. I don't want to let you know what they are, because I don't know which one they're going to do.
Right.
Okay, so, but I have been with the mayor and met with the chief financial officer also for that purpose.
Okay, that's good to hear.
So I'm hoping we get something for it, yes.
As I understand, there's a school-age children rate that's estimated for the building. Like someone's in charge of estimating how many kids could possibly live there.
Well, when we had the meeting, they said that there was going to be, as you said, 1%, which came out to about 4 to 6 children. And that wasn't the age that would all be in one classroom. You know, it might be, a child might be a 1-year-old, okay? A child could be a 4-year-old, could be a 6-year-old, could be a teenager. So again, I'm not sure what it is, and there's different costs per student in 8th grade and high school and grammar schools and all this other stuff. So I'm not sure we're going to be working out the details where, okay, we get one child, they're going to give us $10,000. But there's a chance they could give us $5,000, or they give you X amount of dollars per year automatically in the deal that we come up with.
Okay.
Hopefully,
I think my time's up, so I'll just say
Yeah.
thanks. I'm glad you're on the case. I guess it's really good we have someone who's on the Board of Education and the land use board.
I'm trying, because I don't want to have the taxpayers pay that money.
Nor do I.
Well, because if you remember, Romanovsky's, we even had assistant things coming from there.
Okay.
Okay, we're not paying us, so we heard from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Janine Goodis, 152 Berlin Street. I've been elected to be the bad guy. I'm here tonight to discuss the out-of-district tuition investigation report. As most of you are aware, I attend many board meetings when there is an issue I feel strongly about or a problem that I would like to see resolved. But for the most part, my comments about our school and our board has been positive. This issue has me angry. From the beginning when I heard there was an issue with a staff member's relative attending for free, it was concerning. I understand you cannot answer questions because of the advice of your attorney, but that is the biggest problem here. I placed this issue at your feet, Mr. Miller, as board president when you were presented with the Oprah request for the findings of the investigation report, and your attorney said do not release them. As the voice of the taxpayers of the town, you should have said no, we will release this, so this does not go any further. It is your responsibility as our representatives to do what we want, and not what an attorney who does not represent us, the taxpayers, tells you to do. The worst part for me, as always, was not 2 months ago, the parents of the UCVTS students were made to feel bad because we wanted a third bus to keep our kids safe. We were told it would cost approximately $30,000, and you were struggling to justify that. Superintendent even came out to help us. But you seem to have no qualms spending $30,000 to hide the truth from the people who pay the bills. It really concerns me. I hope you'll take into advisement for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodis. And just a quick response on that, what you're laying at my feet as far as releasing these documents. And if you ever get the opportunity to sit on this board, there is a responsibility, and there's also many legal issues. Because once you're on the board, you have to be very careful with what you release. Say I release that statement. Well, what happens if that turned around, if I released it, and personnel issues, privacy issues were exposed, then that opens us up legally to get sued by the other parties involved. So that might even be costing us even more money. So where it looks like, I'm withholding or we're withholding, no, we're not. We're trying to be as wise and as prudent as we can be with respect to all parties involved. So it looks very easy. Here you go, guys, take it. But then all of a sudden, here comes another lawsuit, or here comes a lawsuit, and then we're in deep. And we're in deep to the tune of who knows what that money might be. And then who's going to pay it? We're going to pay it, which means you're going to pay it, which means I'm going to pay it, which means Mr. School is going to pay it. All the taxpayers are going to pay it. So we have to be very prudent and calculated about what we do. Of course, we're elected members of the board and we serve the public. Of course we do. But we have, as board members, my time's up. As board members, we have to be very careful. And because we're looking at the entire picture. And yes, we want to make sure that the public is aware, of course, but we also have to be very prudent, which I'm learning, as I'm on the board, as everyone's on the board here, that we have to, there's an oath that we take of privacy, of protecting student matters, staff matters, parent matters as well. So it's a difficult road. And it's hard to explain until you've been sitting here and understanding it. So I just ask your understanding of that. Thank you. Seeing there's no one else, we'll close the second public participation portion of the evening tonight. And Mr. Greer, would you like to make a statement?
I just wanted to clarify the ESSA item that Mr. Scola brought up. First of all, when we first came up, I thought it was something completely new that the state just came out with, and I said, one more thing. The ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, actually, it's been around now for almost a year. That's going to take over what the No Child Left Behind rule was. The state right now, actually, we do have the timeline. We do know that there's a parent involvement component in the ESSA. They're only now starting technical assistance support meetings beginning in late November that goes all the way to December or January. So I just wanted to make sure we clarified that we're not dropping the ball here. We are very much aware of the act.
This is the Department of Education.
Department of Education. We are only now, knowing about training that's upcoming from the state. So things are still in the process of there's a February timeline or date that's there. The state is only starting to give assistance to the district coming up now at the end of November all the way to the end of December. I just wanted to clarify that because it felt that I wasn't aware. We're very much aware of the ESSA Act. is here, is going to stay, is going to take over the No Child Left Behind, and we're prepared to do what we need to do to make sure that our students receive the education that they need to receive. So I wanted to clarify that. I thought it was a completely different acronym that you were using there.
Sorry.
Yes, we got it.
Also providing training at the state level,
Yes.
the local level, and national level, whether it's for parents and educators and all stakeholders.
I just reviewed it actually Friday when I came back. I was reviewing. So we are on top of that. We're going to be sending some of our administrators for the assistants, the state assistants, and when they come back, we'll implement whatever we need to implement. But thank you for bringing it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rito. And I would like to have someone make a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mr. Rito, second. Mr. Harms. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned, and we'll see you here on the 15th of November at 7 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone.